she wanted was $20. Just 20. So her baby wouldn't go to sleep hungry again.
Please
She
leave
didn't mean
money
to
for
send a
baby
message to him
formula.
with trembling hands and a baby crying. She just needed baby formula. But 30 minutes after she hit send, the street outside her tiny apartment shook as 15 black SUVs and security personnel roared in, and her life changed forever. Welcome, my wonderful family. I promise you, today's story is going to pull on your heart in ways you don't expect. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button so you never miss these life-changing stories, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I love knowing who's sitting with me in this moment. Tomorrow, something even more gripping is coming, and you won't want to be left out. Now let's begin. Rain dripped from the cracked ceiling of the one-bedroom apartment, each drop echoing like a clock she could never outrun. Emily Ramirez rocked her 6-month-old daughter, Sophia, whose tiny face was red from hunger. Her last bottle of formula had run dry 6 hours ago. She'd already sold her wedding ring, her grandmother's locket, every little thing of value. Nothing was left, except the sound of her baby's cry. Sophia whimpered weakly in the crib beside her, the kind of cry that broke a mother's soul because it wasn't loud or demanding anymore. It was fading, tired, and almost defeated. Emily's body trembled with exhaustion. She hadn't eaten properly in 2 days, skipping meals to stretch what little she had for her baby. Her phone screen flickered, the battery barely clinging to life. She scrolled through her contacts, thumb hovering over her sister's name, her last lifeline. She typed the message with shame heavy in her chest, the words she swore she'd never send again. Can you please send me $20? Sophia needs formula, and I don't have anything left. Please, I'm begging you. Her hands shook so badly she didn't notice the mistyped number. Exhaustion blurring her vision, she hit send. The message flew, not to her friend, but to a stranger whose name was carved into skyscrapers, whispered in boardrooms, and splashed across headlines. Alexander Knight. Emily pressed her lips to Sophia's damp hair. I'm so sorry, baby girl. Mama's trying. A tear slid down her cheek, hot against the cold air of the apartment. She didn't know her life had just split into before and after. Miles away in a glass tower that touched the clouds of Texas City skyline, Alexander Knight stared at the untouched glass of whiskey on his desk. The world knew him as the billionaire tech mogul who had everything. Yachts, penthouses, power. What they didn't know was the silence that lived inside him. His phone buzzed. He rarely gave out his number, guarded by layers of security. Only a handful of people had direct access. He expected it to be business. Instead, he read, "Can you please send me $20? Sophia needs formula, and I don't have anything left. Please, I'm begging you." Alexander froze. For a moment he thought it was some scam, but the raw desperation in those words hooked him. He hadn't seen honesty like that in years. His chest tightened, his jaw clenched, and with it, a memory surged. Sophia, that name alone reopened wounds he'd buried, the name of the daughter he had lost 5 years ago. His world had ended that night, though his empire had grown. The silent sound of his own daughter coughing in the night, the fever, the helplessness of watching her slip away despite all his wealth. It ripped him open. Something inside him cracked. Without hesitating, he pressed the intercom. "James, get the team ready. We're going out. Now." Voice like steel, he said to Steve. "Track the sender. We leave in 5 minutes." Back in her dim apartment, Emily watched the phone screen, waiting for a reply. Nothing. Her heart sank. Her sister had probably had enough of bailing her out. The baby's cries grew louder. Emily pulled the thin blanket tighter around her, whispering, "Shh, Mommy's here. I'll fix this. I promise." Then the low rumble started. At first, she thought it was thunder, but the ground seemed to vibrate. Headlights cut through the rain-slick street. 1, 2, 3. By the time she counted 15 massive black SUVs pulling up, her breath caught in her throat. Neighbors peeked through blinds. Doors slammed. Heavy boots hit the pavement. Panic surged. Emily clutched Sophia tighter, stumbling back against the peeling wall. What is happening? A knock thundered at her door. 3 sharp raps that rattled her bones. Her phone buzzed again. A new text lit up the cracked screen. Emily, it's Alexander Knight. Open the door. You're safe now. What do you think Emily should do? Open the door to this billionaire stranger, or stay hidden and protect her baby? Drop your thoughts below. I'm curious to know what you'd have done. The pounding at the door echoed through Emily's chest. She clutched Sophia closer, her trembling hand trying to quiet the baby's cries. Her mind raced through terrifying scenarios. Police, debt collectors, a landlord finally done with her late rent. Then her cracked phone screen lit up again. Emily, please open the door. I won't hurt you. I just want to help. She stared at the message, her breath shallow. She hadn't told him her name. She hadn't told anyone in that text who she was. Her knees weakened. Oh God, she whispered. The knock came again, gentler this time. A man's deep voice followed. Miss Ramirez, I promise you, we're here to help. You asked for baby formula. Let me give you more than just that. Emily's survival instincts screamed at her. She bolted for the back door, only to find 2 men in suits standing in the rain, their posture rigid, but their expressions unreadable. SUVs lined the street like a fortress. "Man," one said softly, raising his hands to show he wasn't armed. "Please, you're safe. We just need a moment of your time." Safe? Nothing about this felt safe. Sophia wailed, her tiny fists flailing, Emily's chest constricted, her shame flaring hotter than her fear. The whole block was watching. She had nothing: peeling paint walls, broken fridge, and now a swarm of strangers exposing her poverty under a spotlight. Then, the front door opened from the outside. She gasped, heart leaping to her throat. Standing there, framed by the dim glow of streetlights and raindrops, was a man she recognized instantly. Alexander Knight, billionaire. She'd seen his face in magazines, on news broadcasts. Untouchable, cold, a man whose world should never have collided with hers. And yet here he was, rain soaking his suit, eyes locked on her, with an intensity that unnerved her. He took a cautious step inside, his voice low. "Emily, you don't need to run. I got your message." Her knees nearly buckled. I didn't. It was a mistake." "I know," Alexander said gently. "But maybe it wasn't." Emily's breath came fast, panic making her words tumble. "Look, I don't know what you want. I'm not some scammer, I swear. I was just asking my sister for help." Alexander's gaze softened. "I read your message. Every word of it was real. That's why I'm here, because I couldn't ignore it." She swallowed hard, hugging Sophia so tightly, the baby squirmed. "You don't know me. You don't know anything about me." "You're right," he said, stepping closer, his voice breaking slightly. "But I know what it feels like to lose a child." Emily's eyes widened. For a moment, the room was silent, except for Sophia's soft whimpering. Alexander exhaled, his mask cracking. "My daughter's name was Sophia too." The name hung in the air like a ghost. Emily's heart twisted. His grief was palpable, raw despite the years that must have passed. For the first time, she saw not a billionaire, but a man with a wound that mirrored her desperation. Her fear tangled with something unexpected, an ache, a fragile connection neither of them had asked for. Still, she shook her head, her pride fighting through. "I don't need your pity. I can figure this out on my own." Alexander's voice dropped. "This isn't pity, Emily. This is something I can't explain yet. You reached out in desperation, and maybe, just maybe, it was meant for me." She blinked at him, caught between wanting to believe and wanting to push him away. And that was when one of the suited men entered, carrying bags of groceries, diapers, and 3 different brands of formula. Emily's face flushed hot. The humiliation was unbearable. Her poverty paraded in front of strangers. Her voice cracked. You can't just barge into my life like this. Alexander didn't flinch. He looked at her, rain dripping from his hair, and said softly, "Maybe I already have." Do you think Emily should let Alexander stay and explain himself? Or should she kick him out to protect her pride? Comment below. I want to hear your take on this turning point. Emily's chest burned with a mix of shame and anger. The groceries on her rickety table looked like an accusation, proof that she couldn't provide for her own child. She stood there, rocking Sophia in her arms, her jaw tight. "You don't get to walk in here with your army and treat me like some charity case," she spat, her voice trembling. Alexander didn't flinch. "Emily, I didn't mean to humiliate you. I only wanted to help. You don't know me," she snapped, her pride flaring. "You don't know how hard I've fought just to keep this roof over our heads. I don't need some billionaire swooping in to fix me." Alexander's eyes darkened. "You think this is about fixing you? No, this is about not turning my back when I see someone drowning." Emily's lips trembled. Drowning. The word cut too close. Sophia whimpered again, and Emily turned away, desperate to shield her daughter from this strange, overwhelming intrusion. She busied herself by tucking the baby into the battered crib, her back stiff, her movements sharp. "I need you to leave," she said coldly. "Take your men, your cars, your money, and go. This is my life, my problem." Alexander studied her, his expression unreadable. Slowly he pulled a card from his wallet and placed it on the table. His voice softened. "I'll leave, but keep this. Call me if you need anything. Anything." Emily's hand curled into a fist at her side. She didn't want to need anyone, least of all him. "I won't." He gave her a long, almost sorrowful look. "You say that now." When the door closed behind him, the silence was suffocating. The SUVs rumbled away, leaving the street dark again. Emily sank onto the couch, clutching Sophia as tears spilled down her cheeks. Why did his words linger? Why had his eyes haunted, broken, looked like hers in the mirror on her worst days? She hated that a part of her wanted to believe him. Meanwhile, Alexander sat in the back of his SUV, his reflection staring back at him in the tinted glass. His chest was tight, his jaw clenched. James, his longtime head of security, spoke carefully. "Sir, that was unexpected, even for you." Alexander's voice was low, rough. "She reminded me of her." James glanced at him. "Your daughter." The name caught in Alexander's throat. Sophia. The SUV cut through the rain-slick city, but Alexander's mind was back in that tiny apartment, hearing the same desperation that had once lived in him after the accident. Back in her apartment, Emily ripped the card in half and tossed it in the trash. "No," she whispered fiercely, as if trying to convince herself. "I don't need him. I don't need anyone." Sophia stirred, and Emily kissed her tiny forehead, whispering a promise that shook with both love and fear. "I'll do this on my own, baby girl, no matter what it takes." But even as she said it, the image of Alexander's rain-soaked face lingered in her mind. Do you think Emily made the right choice by rejecting Alexander's help? Or is her pride getting in the way of something bigger? I'd love to know your thoughts. Drop them in the comments. 2 days later, Emily's world tilted again. The old heater sputtered once, coughed smoke, and died, leaving her apartment freezing. She bundled Sophia in layers of blankets, her own hands numb, her chest tightened with panic. Winter nights were brutal, and the baby's tiny coughs shredded her heart. She tried calling her landlord, but he didn't answer. She dialed her sister, only to be met with voicemail. By midnight, Sophia's cries grew weaker, and Emily's fear became unbearable. Her eyes fell on the torn business card she had tossed in the trash. For a long time, she stared at it, then slowly pieced the halves together. With trembling fingers, she dialed. The response was faster than she expected. Within an hour, Headlights returned, flooding the street. Black SUVs again. She wanted to slam the window shut, but part of her clung to hope. When the knock came, she opened the door before she could talk herself out of it. Alexander stood there, his expression taut with concern. "Emily." Her throat tightened. "The heat's out." Her voice broke as she looked down at Sophia's flushed face. Without hesitation, Alexander pulled off his coat and wrapped it around the baby, his movements careful, almost reverent. "We're taking you both somewhere safe, now." Emily wanted to protest, but exhaustion won. She nodded silently. The drive was surreal. The SUVs cut through the night until they reached wrought iron gates that swung open to reveal a sprawling estate. Emily's breath caught. The mansion was larger than anything she'd imagined. Gleaming glass, marble, warm lights spilling across manicured lawns. She felt out of place instantly, clutching Sophia as though someone might take her away. Inside, staff moved quickly, preparing a guest room with soft linens and warmth. Emily stood frozen, overwhelmed by chandeliers, polished wood, and walls lined with art, worth more than she'd ever earn in a lifetime. "This isn't real," she whispered. Alexander's voice was calm but firm. "It's real, and it's temporary, if that's what you want. But tonight, you and Sophia will be safe." Later, when Sophia finally drifted to sleep in a crib far nicer than her own, Emily stood by the window, arms crossed tightly. "You didn't have to do this," she said without looking at him. "I know," Alexander replied from the doorway, "but I wanted to." Her voice cracked with defiance. "And what do you want in return? Because nothing in this world is free, not even kindness." His gaze softened. "Emily, I don't want anything from you. Just let me give her what I couldn't give my daughter." Her throat ached. She hated how his words disarmed her, how her heart tugged against the walls she'd built. For the next hours, forced under the same roof, their worlds collided. Emily wandered the halls feeling like an intruder, while Alexander tried awkwardly to make her comfortable. He showed her the library, the kitchen stocked with everything she could never afford, the nursery that still held the ghost of his Sophia. Neither said much, but silence carried its own weight. Every glance between them brimmed with unspoken grief, unspoken need. When Emily finally whispered, "Thank you," it was the first crack in her resistance. Alexander simply nodded, though his eyes revealed something deeper, a longing to heal, to connect, to matter again. If you were Emily, would you trust Alexander now that circumstances have forced you under his roof? Or would you keep your guard up? Share your thoughts. I want to know how you'd feel in her shoes. Emily couldn't sleep. The mansion's silence was too heavy, the bed too soft, the air too warm, compared to the cold draft of her apartment. She rose and padded quietly through the dark hall, arms folded against her chest. A soft glow spilled from a door at the end of the corridor. Curious, she pushed it open, only to stop dead. It was a nursery, not the guest nursery where Sophia slept, but a shrine, pale pink walls, a rocking chair, a crib that had never been disassembled. A teddy bear sat in the corner, dust motes dancing in the lamplight. Emily's chest tightened. This wasn't a room, it was a wound left open. Behind her, Alexander's voice broke the silence. She was 5. A drunk driver ran a red light. "I never made it to the hospital in time." Emily turned. His face was shadowed, but his voice carried a rawness she hadn't heard before. He stepped into the nursery, his hand brushing the crib rail. "I built empires, bought houses, filled them with everything, but none of it filled the hole she left." Emily's throat ached. I'm so sorry." Alexander's eyes glistened. "When I saw your message, when I saw her name, I couldn't ignore it. I thought maybe this was my second chance to do something right." Emily's arms wrapped around herself, shame burning through her. "And what do you see when you look at me? Some broken woman who can't even buy milk for her baby?" His gaze snapped to hers, sharp but tender. "No, I see a woman who hasn't given up. A woman who'd humiliate herself, beg if she had to, because she loves her child that much. That's not weakness, Emily. That's strength I wish I'd had. Her breath hitched, and for a moment, the walls between them cracked. She lowered herself into the rocking chair, staring at the floor. Her voice came out shaky, but steady enough to peel back layers she'd never let anyone see. Her father left before she was born, said he wasn't ready to be a dad, that I was making a mistake keeping her. My parents, God, they were furious. I lost them too, so it's been just me and Sophia ever since. Her fingers twisted together, nails digging into her palms. I wait tables, I clean houses, I do whatever I can, but it's never enough. Every day feels like walking a tightrope over fire, and one wrong step means losing her. Alexander listened without interrupting, his silence heavy but safe. When she looked up, her eyes wet, he whispered, "You're not alone anymore." The words hit her, like both a balm and a threat. Not alone. Could she even believe that? Could she risk it? Her chest rose and fell, torn between hope and fear. Don't promise me things you can't keep, Alexander. I can't afford to trust anyone and watch it all collapse. He stepped closer, his expression raw. Then don't trust my words. Watch my actions. See if I walk away. Emily swallowed hard, her defenses trembling. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not as a failure, not as a project, but as a mother fighting tooth and nail. Later, alone in the guest room, Emily lay awake, her heart pounding with the weight of everything revealed. She had seen his scars, and he had seen hers. That should have made her feel lighter. Instead, it terrified her, because the more she knew of him, the more dangerous it became to imagine needing him. And yet, deep down, she couldn't silence the whisper, maybe we're not so different after all. Do you think Emily should begin trusting Alexander after hearing his backstory, or should she stay guarded to protect herself? Share your feelings. I'm curious what you'd do in her place. Emily woke to sunlight spilling through tall windows. For the first time in weeks, she hadn't jolted awake in panic. Sophia cooed happily in the crib nearby, her tiny fists batting at the mobile hanging above her. Emily smiled through the fog of exhaustion. It startled her, that smile. She couldn't remember the last time one came so easily. Downstairs, she found Alexander in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, a comically serious look on his face, as he attempted to flip pancakes. Batter smeared the counter, and one pancake sat charred in the trash. Emily blinked. "You cook?" Alexander glanced up, sheepish. "Trying. Don't laugh." She chuckled despite herself. "That one looks like it's plotting revenge." For the first time, his lips curved into something real. Not the practiced billionaire smile, a human smile. They sat at the counter, Sophia in a high chair Alexander had hastily ordered overnight. The pancakes were edible, barely. Emily laughed when Alexander grimaced at his own creation. "You've built companies worth billions, but you can't handle flour and eggs," she teased. His gaze softened at her laughter. "I stopped trying to learn ordinary things. Didn't think I'd need them." Her smile faded, replaced with quiet sincerity. Ordinary things are what keep us going. A warm meal, a roof, a laugh when everything feels impossible. Their eyes met, and for a moment the air shifted. Two people on opposite ends of the world sharing the same hunger for something simple, real. Later that day, Alexander led them to his library. Sunlight poured over shelves of books that reached the ceiling. Emily gasped softly, her fingers brushing the spines. "You can read anything you want," he offered. She laughed, nervously. "I don't have time for books. I'm too busy surviving." "Maybe now you can breathe," he said gently. "Even if just for an hour." Emily hesitated, then picked up a worn novel she hadn't touched since high school. As she sat with Sophia on her lap, reading aloud, Alexander leaned against the doorway, watching silently. For the first time in years, the mansion felt alive again. That night as Sophia slept, Emily found Alexander sitting alone in the garden, staring at the stars. She joined him, pulling her sweater tighter against the cool air. "Why do you sit out here?" she asked softly. It's the only place that feels quiet, he replied. The world expects me to be invincible. Out here, I can admit, I'm not. Emily's heart clenched. You don't have to be invincible. Not all the time. His eyes met hers, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen before. And you don't have to be alone. Silence stretched between them, warm and fragile. For the first time, Emily didn't want to run. As they walked back inside, Sophia stirred, letting out a small cry. Emily moved to pick her up, but Alexander gently beat her to it, cradling the baby with surprising ease. Emily froze, her breath catching. Seeing her daughter in his arms, safe and calm, stirred something deep, fear, longing, hope tangled into one. He looked at her, whispering, "She feels so light, like holding the whole world and nothing at the same time." Emily swallowed hard, blinking back tears. "She is my whole world." Their eyes lingered, an unspoken truth shimmering between them. Maybe, just maybe, they could share that world. Do you think Emily is right to let her guard down with Alexander now? Or is it too soon to trust the bond forming between them? I'd love to hear your take. Leave a comment below. The next few days passed in a rhythm Emily hadn't known in years. Warm meals, Sophia's laughter echoing through marble halls, quiet conversations with Alexander that felt startlingly easy. One evening, Emily found herself smiling as Alexander showed Sophia how to balance blocks. The billionaire, stoic, untouchable, Alexander Knight, was laughing as the baby knocked them down. It was dangerous. Emily realized how safe it felt. The illusion shattered the next morning when voices rose in the front hall. Emily stepped out to see a woman in a sleek black dress and diamond earrings, her smile sharp as a blade. "Alex," the woman purred, ignoring Emily completely. "You can't be serious, bringing her into your home." Emily froze, clutching Sophia protectively. "This doesn't concern you, Victoria," Alexander said flatly. Victoria's gaze flicked to Emily, then to the baby. Her laugh was cruel. "So this is it? A charity project to fill the hole your daughter left? You think this will fix you?" Emily's stomach twisted. Shame burned her cheeks. Alexander stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "That's enough." But Victoria's words had already lodged deep. Emily's voice shook as she turned on him. "Is that what this is? Am I just some replacement? Some broken little project to make you feel better about yourself?" Alexander's eyes widened. "No, Emily, that's not." "Then what is this?" she demanded, tears stinging her eyes. "Because I don't belong here, and you know it." His silence was the worst answer of all. Emily's chest caved. She clutched Sophia tighter, her voice breaking. "I won't let my daughter grow up as someone's second chance. She deserves more than that. I deserve more than that." She fled upstairs, stuffing her few belongings into a bag with trembling hands. Alexander followed, his voice desperate. "Emily, wait, please. Don't go like this." But her heart was already shattered. "I made a mistake letting you in. I can't do this. I won't." She pushed past him, ignoring the crack in his voice as he whispered, "Don't walk away." The mansion doors closed behind her with a finality that echoed in both their chests. Emily trudged back to her apartment, tears blurring her vision. I thought maybe," her voice broke, "but I was wrong." The air in the apartment was colder than she remembered. The cracked walls seemed to groan with every gust of wind that pushed through the broken window frame. She had laid Sophia down on a pile of blankets, whispering lullabies to drown out the sounds of sirens outside. She had told herself this was safer, that running back here meant taking control, protecting Sophia from humiliation, from being a burden in Alexander's world. But as she sat on the bare floor, her arms wrapped around her knees, the truth pressed down on her. She wasn't safe. She was alone. The knock came softly at first. Emily's head jerked up. No one ever visited her here anymore. She hesitated, heart hammering. and then rose slowly to her feet. She opened the door just an inch, enough to see the pale face framed in black silk. Victoria. The hallway light flickered above her, making her smile look like it was cut from shadow. "You shouldn't be here," Emily said quickly, trying to close the door. But Victoria's hand slid forward, not forceful, just deliberate. "Relax, darling. I didn't come to fight. I came to enlighten you." Emily's stomach knotted. "I don't want to hear it." "Oh, but you must," Victoria purred, slipping inside as if she owned the place. Her eyes swept the peeling wallpaper, the sagging ceiling, the little bundle of blankets where Sophia slept. "So this is where he found you. Fitting, really. You know, Alexander has always had a weakness for strays." "Don't you dare talk about my daughter," Emily snapped, stepping between Victoria and Sophia. A low chuckle slipped from Victoria's lips. "Protective. I admire that. But tell me, Emily, has he told you the truth? The real reason he burst into your life with those SUVs and that savior complex?" Emily swallowed hard. "He helped me. That's all that matters. Is it?" Victoria's eyes glittered in the dim light. "Or are you simply a symbol? A chance for him to erase what your Daniel did?" The name cut through Emily like a knife. Her breath caught. "What do you know about Daniel?" Victoria tilted her head, savoring the moment. "I know Alexander knew him. I know he has worked for him. And I know Daniel left debts because he was loyal to Alexander. Not just financial, but moral. He boasted about how Alexander made him walk away from you, pregnant and alone. Do you think Alexander swooped in because of love? No, darling. You're not love. You're redemption." Emily shook her head, backing up until her shoulders hit the wall. "You're lying." "Am I?" Victoria whispered. "Then ask him. Look into his eyes and ask if he ever knew Daniel. Watch how he flinches, how the guilt creeps in. You'll see. You've always been unfinished business, not a choice." Emily's chest tightened, her throat closing around the words she wanted to scream. Her mind flashed to Alexander's face the night she'd mentioned Daniel, how he had stiffened, looked away, changed the subject. Victoria's smirk widened as she saw the doubt take root. She brushed invisible dust from her sleeve and turned toward the door. "Take my advice, Emily Parker," she said softly, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. "Men like Alexander don't rescue women like you. They use you to soothe their conscience, and then they move on. Save yourself the heartbreak. Leave before he discards you." And with that, she slipped back into the dark hallway, leaving only the echo of her heels. Emily stood frozen, her body trembling. Her gaze darted to Sophia, sleeping innocently, unaware of the storm raging in her mother's heart. Her hands pressed against the wall as if to hold herself up. She wanted to scream that it was all lies. She wanted to run back into Alexander's arms and demand the truth. But all she could hear was Victoria's voice. "You're not love. You're redemption." Emily sank to the floor, burying her face in her hands as the first sob broke free. Meanwhile, in his mansion, Alexander sat alone in the nursery, staring at the crib that would never hold his daughter again. His fists clenched, his throat raw. For the first time in years he let himself weep. Two broken souls, now farther apart than ever. Was Emily right to leave and protect herself from being someone's project? Or should she have stayed to give Alexander a chance to prove her wrong? Share your thoughts. I'm curious which side you're on. The silence, after Victoria left Emily, was worse than her presence. Emily stayed on the floor, her hands still pressed against her face, her breathing ragged. The old apartment seemed to echo with every cruel word Victoria had whispered. The air felt heavy, as though the walls themselves believed it. She told herself not to listen. She told herself Victoria was poison, and poison killed only if you swallowed it. But she had already swallowed it. Her mind kept circling back to one moment she couldn't shake. The night she had first mentioned Daniel to Alexander. She remembered how his eyes had darkened, how his lips had pressed into a thin line, how he had quickly changed the subject. At the time, she thought it was pity, Now she wasn't sure. She glanced at Sophia. Her little girl stirred in her sleep, a soft whimper escaping her lips. Emily rushed to her, stroking her tiny arm until she settled again. "I won't let them hurt you," she whispered. "Not Alexander, not Victoria, not anyone." But her voice cracked, and she hated herself for it, because deep down she didn't know if she was lying to her daughter or to herself. The next morning was a blur of exhaustion. Emily had barely slept, haunted by Victoria's words. She tried to distract herself by focusing on Sophia, feeding her, changing her, rocking her gently. But the questions gnawed like rats at the edges of her mind. Did Alexander really know Daniel? Why didn't he tell me? What if Victoria's right, and I'm just his penance? By mid-afternoon, Emily couldn't bear the silence anymore. She pulled out her phone, staring at Alexander's number on the screen. Her thumb hovered over it. She wanted to call, to scream, to demand the truth. But fear stopped her. What if he confirmed it? What if Victoria's cruel smile had been backed by reality? Her phone buzzed suddenly, making her jump. A message from Alexander. "Emily, please, talk to me. I know you're hurting. I'll come to you if you'll let me." Her fingers trembled over the screen. She wanted to type yes. She wanted to type no. Instead, she set the phone down as tears blurred her vision. That evening, hunger forced her out. She bundled Sophia into a thin coat and walked to the corner store. The fluorescent lights hummed above her, and she moved through the aisles with a cart she could barely fill. Formula, diapers, the cheapest bread she could find. She felt the stares of strangers, imagined their judgment. A mother alone, fumbling with coupons, her clothes worn, her eyes red. And then she saw them. Two men in dark suits at the end of the aisle, too polished, too still, their eyes following her. Her stomach clenched. Alexander's men, or Victoria's. She turned quickly, pulling Sophia's blanket tighter around her. She finished as fast as she could and hurried home, her pulse pounding the whole way. By the time she set the bags down in her apartment, she was shaking. "See, baby?" she whispered to Sophia. "We don't need him. We're fine." But the words rang hollow, and Sophia fussed as if she could sense the lie. Later that night, Emily's phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Alexander. It was a number she didn't recognize. "I told you he wasn't who you think he is. Meet me tomorrow, 3 p.m. Old Florida Coffee. Or keep living in his shadow. Your choice." Emily's heart sank. She wanted to throw the phone across the room. She wanted to delete the message, to pretend she hadn't seen it. But her fingers wouldn't let go of the device. Because part of her needed answers. Because part of her feared Victoria might be telling the truth. The next day, Emily sat at a small corner table in Old Florida Coffee, the cheapest coffee in front of her untouched. She hated herself for coming, but she couldn't stay away. Victoria arrived exactly on time, dressed in a tailored black coat that made the other patrons glance twice. She slid into the seat across from Emily, her perfume filling the air. "You look tired," she said casually, stirring sugar into her espresso. "Sleepless nights don't suit you." Emily's jaw tightened. "Say what you came to say." Victoria leaned in, lowering her voice. "Daniel wasn't just a man who left you, Emily. He did shady business with Alexandra. He borrowed money. He made promises. He bragged about walking away from you, carrying another man's debt in his pocket. Alexander knew all of it. And now, here you are, his widow in all but name, raising his child. Doesn't it seem convenient?" Emily's throat burned. "Stop it. Why do you think Alexander rushed in when he got your message?" Victoria pressed. "Do you think it was fate? No, it was obligation. He's not saving you, darling. He's cleansing himself." Emily's nails dug into her palms. "You're twisting things." "Am I?" Victoria's eyes glimmered. "Ask him. Watch him choke on the truth." She slid a folded piece of paper across the table. Emily hesitated before opening it. Inside was a photocopy of something, an old legal document, faded and smudged. Her eyes scanned the words Daniel Parker, loan agreement, Knight Enterprises. Her stomach dropped. She shoved the paper back at Victoria. This proves nothing. Oh, it proves everything, Victoria whispered. It proves you're a charity case, a ghost he's trying to bury. Emily's hands trembled. She stood abruptly, nearly knocking over the chair. Sophia stirred in her carrier, sensing her mother's distress. I don't need this, Emily hissed. I don't need you. Victoria smiled sweetly. No, darling, but you'll see soon enough that you don't need him either. Emily rushed out of the cafe, the cold air biting her cheeks. She clutched Sophia close, her heart hammering. The paper burned in her mind. The words echoed in her ears. Loan agreement, Knight Enterprises. Was it true? Had Alexander really known Daniel? And if so, why hadn't he told her? She wanted to believe in him. She wanted to cling to the moments of tenderness, to the way he looked at Sophia as if she were precious. But the cracks were spreading too fast, too deep. By the time she reached her apartment, tears were falling freely. She whispered to Sophia, her voice breaking. I think we're just ghosts. No one truly wants to stay with us. Across town, Alexander sat alone in his study. Empty glasses littered the desk, untouched. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't spoken to anyone all day. Victoria's words replayed in his head, cruel and venomous, but worse were Emily's. I deserve more than that. She was right. He'd tried to help out of guilt, out of longing for his lost daughter. But somewhere along the way, it had become more than that. He didn't just want to protect Emily. He wanted to know her, to love her, and he had failed to show her that. He stared at the torn business card Emily had once held. With trembling fingers, he picked up his phone, but fear paralyzed him. What if she never forgave him? But Emily, the paper Victoria brought haunted her. Emily shoved it into the drawer beneath a pile of unpaid bills, but even then, she could see the words burned into her mind. Knight Enterprises, Daniel Parker, loan agreement. Every time she looked at Sophia, the questions clawed deeper. Did Alexander see her child as a reminder, a debt unpaid? That night, she lay awake on the floor beside Sophia's blanket nest, staring at the cracked ceiling. She thought of Alexander's voice on the phone, gentle, pleading, please, talk to me. I know you're hurting. And she thought of Victoria's hiss, you're not love, you're redemption. Her chest ached, as though it were being torn in two. The following morning, a knock came at her door. Emily froze. Her first instinct was fear. Victoria again. She clutched Sophia protectively, but then a voice drifted through the wood. Emily, it's me, Alexander. Her knees nearly gave out. She stayed still, her breath caught in her throat. Please, he continued softly. I just want to see that you're okay. You don't even have to open the door. Just let me know you're all right. Emily pressed her forehead against the peeling paint, tears stinging her eyes. She wanted to fling the door open, to throw herself into his arms, to believe that love could erase doubt. But Victoria's words chained her in place. She whispered, just loud enough. Go home, Alexander. A silence stretched. She thought he might press harder. Instead, his voice broke slightly. I'll wait, as long as it takes. She listened as his footsteps finally retreated, and then she collapsed against the door, muffling her sobs so Sophia wouldn't wake. Days passed in a haze. Emily avoided the world. She rationed what little food she had. She kept Sophia close, rocking her through nights of coughing and nights of crying. But inside, the storm built. Each night, she heard echoes. Alexander's laughter when he'd first held Sophia, his hand brushing hers across the kitchen counter. The way his eyes had softened, as if he'd found something he didn't know he was searching for. Was all of it a lie? Or was Victoria twisting truths that Alexander was too afraid to share? The uncertainty ate at her worse than hunger. By the end of the week, Emily couldn't take it anymore. She bundled Sophia up and marched across town, her steps sharp, driven by desperation. She didn't call, she didn't warn. She simply arrived at Alexander's mansion, clutching her baby to her chest, fury and fear swirling inside her. The guards tried to stop her, but when Alexander appeared in the foyer, his eyes widened, and he waved them aside. "Emily," he breathed, stepping forward as though afraid she might vanish. "Thank God." "Don't," she snapped, cutting him off. "You tell me the truth, Alexander. Right now. Did you know Daniel?" The name hit the air like a crack of thunder. Alexander froze, his jaw tightened, his hands curling into fists at his sides. Emily's voice shook as she pressed on. Did you know the man who left me, who left her?" She nodded at Sophia, who whimpered softly in her carrier. "Did you know him?" Silence. And in that silence, Emily saw her answer. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Oh my God, you did." Alexander reached for her, his voice urgent. "Emily, listen, yes, I knew him, but not the way you think." Her heart cracked. "You lied to me." "I never lied," he said fiercely. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want to open wounds that already bled too deep. Daniel was reckless, selfish. He borrowed money from my company. He boasted about leaving you, about running free. When I heard your name again, when I realized who you were," he broke off, his chest heaving. "I couldn't believe it. I couldn't walk away." Emily shook her head, stepping back. "So it's true. You didn't help me because you cared. You helped me because of him, because of what he did." "Emily, no." His voice cracked with desperation. "I helped you because I saw you. Because when I walked into that apartment and saw you clutching Sophia, fighting for her with everything you had, I knew you weren't like him. I knew you were worth everything he threw away." Her tears fell faster. "And yet you still hid it. You let me believe it was fate, when all along it was pity. Redemption, whatever you want to call it. Don't you see?" Alexander pleaded, his eyes shining. "Daniel is the reason I found you. Yes, but you're the reason I stayed. The reason I can't let go. Emily, I love you, not because of your past, not because of his sins, but because of who you are, who you've always been." For a heartbeat, the world stilled. Emily wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall into his arms and let those words wash everything else away. But then she remembered Victoria's smirk, the photocopied document, the gnawing truth that Alexander had still hidden it from her. Her voice broke as she whispered, "I don't know if I can believe you." Alexander stepped closer, his voice trembling. "Then let me prove it. Let me show you every day that you are not his ghost. You are my future." Emily shook her head, torn apart and angry inside. She turned, clutching Sophia, and walked out before he could stop her. Back in her apartment, Emily collapsed against the door, her body trembling. She had seen the truth in Alexander's eyes, his guilt, his desperation, his love. But love wasn't always enough. Not when trust had been fractured. Not when doubt had been seeded so deeply. She laid Sophia down and whispered, "What if I ruin this for us? What if I walk away from the only man who ever really tried to stay?" Sophia's tiny fingers curled around hers, innocent and trusting. Emily buried her face against her daughter's hand, sobbing silently, and outside, unseen in the shadows across the street, Victoria watched from a sleek black car, her smile sharp as glass. "This is only the beginning," she murmured. The days that followed blurred together like a storm that refused to break. Emily moved through her old apartment in silence, tending to Sophia's needs but barely tending to her own. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Alexander's face, his pleading eyes, his trembling voice as he said he loved her. She wanted to believe him, but then she remembered the weight of that paper. Victoria had slid across the cafe table. She remembered his hesitation before admitting the truth. She remembered the shame that had forced her out of his house in the first place. Her heart and her mind waged war, and neither side was winning. On the third night after the confrontation, the power went out in her building. The apartment plunged into darkness, and Sophia's frightened cries pierced Emily's chest. She fumbled for candles, lighting one with shaking hands, whispering soothing words to calm her baby. But her own fear gnawed harder than the shadows. This was no place for a child, no place for safety, no place for warmth. She thought of the mansion she had left behind, the nursery Alexander had filled with toys, the warmth of the fireplace, the quiet security of guards at every door. She had torn herself away from it out of pride, but pride didn't keep a child warm at night. She held Sophia tighter, whispering into the dark, "Did I make a mistake?" The baby's tiny hand curled around her finger, as if answering. The next morning, Emily left Sophia with her elderly neighbor for an hour, and walked the streets alone. The city seemed louder, harsher, filled with people brushing past her without a glance. Her feet carried her without thought, and before she knew it, she was standing across the street from Alexander's office tower. The glass gleamed in the morning light, a fortress of wealth and power. She stared up at it, torn between longing and fear. She didn't go inside. She couldn't. Instead, she turned and walked away, her heart heavier than before. But as she walked, she didn't notice the black car that pulled out from a side street and began following her at a careful distance. That evening, another knock rattled her apartment door. Emily froze, dread washing over her. She hoped foolishly, desperately, that it was Alexander again. It wasn't. Victoria slipped inside before Emily could protest, her black coat gleaming, her smile razor-sharp. "You're still here," she said, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. "I thought by now you'd have run back to him, tail between your legs." Emily's jaw clenched. "What do you want?" "To help you." Victoria set her bag on the rickety table, pulling out a thin file. She slid it across the surface. "If you're going to tie yourself to a man, don't you think you deserve to know the whole story?" Emily's hands hovered over the file, trembling. "I don't need." "Yes, you do." Victoria interrupted smoothly. "Inside are records, bank transfers, contracts. Proof that Daniel wasn't just a name in Alexander's past. Proof that everything you've built with him rests on lies." Emily shook her head, backing away. "Why are you doing this?" Victoria's expression hardened, the mask slipping just enough to reveal something darker beneath. "Because women like us don't get fairy tales, Emily. We get used. We get discarded. I won't let you delude yourself into thinking you're different." Emily's voice broke. "And what if I am?" For the first time, Victoria's smile faltered. Her eyes narrowed, calculating. "You won't be," she whispered, snatching her bag and heading for the door. "Not once you see him for what he is." The door slammed shut, leaving Emily trembling in the silence. Her eyes fell to the file on the table. She hated herself for it, but she reached for it. Hours later, after Sophia had finally fallen asleep, Emily opened the file by candlelight. Her eyes scanned page after page. Daniel's signature scrawled on contracts, payment schedules tied to night enterprises, notes about missed deadlines and penalties. Her stomach churned. The dates overlapped with her pregnancy. Daniel had been borrowing money while she carried his child, while she begged him not to leave, and Alexander had known. The papers slipped from her trembling hands, scattering across the floor. She covered her mouth with both hands to stifle the sob that tore from her throat. Next morning, she couldn't take it anymore. She called Alexander. Her voice was sharp, broken. "We need to talk." Within an hour, he was at her door. His eyes were red from sleepless nights, his suit wrinkled as though he had worn it for days. "Emily," he breathed, reaching for her hand. "God, I've been going out of my mind." She pulled away. "Did you know?" He froze. "Emily, don't." Her voice cracked. "Don't dance around it. Did you know Daniel was borrowing money from you while I was pregnant? Did you know he walked out on me while he owed you?" Alexander's jaw tightened. Yes, her knees nearly buckled, And you never told me. I wanted to protect you, he said, his voice raw. Daniel was poison. I didn't want his shadow to touch you any more than it already had. But it did, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. It touched everything, and you let me believe I was free of it when I wasn't. Emily, listen to me. He stepped forward, desperation in every movement. I didn't help you because of Daniel. I helped you because when I saw you, I saw a woman fighting harder than anyone I've ever known. I saw someone I couldn't walk away from. Everything I feel for you, it's real. It always has been. Emily shook her head, choking on her sobs. How can I believe that? When everything started with his name, when every step we've taken has been haunted by him. Alexander's voice broke. Because I would burn his memory to ash, if it meant keeping you. Because I would give up everything I own, everything I've built, just to keep you and Sophia safe. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Emily wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But the image of Daniel's name on those contracts, the weight of Victoria's words, the ache of betrayal, it all pressed too hard. She whispered, I can't do this. Alexander's face shattered. Emily, please. She stepped back, clutching Sophia to her chest. I need to protect her, and I can't do that if I don't even know what's real anymore. She turned away, tears blinding her. Alexander's voice followed her, raw and broken. I love you, Emily. I love her. Don't let him win again. But she closed the door, pressing her back against it, sliding to the floor with Sophia in her arms. Her sobs filled the empty apartment, echoing off the walls like a dirge. And outside, unseen once again, Victoria watched with quiet satisfaction. Emily didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance, Sophia asleep in her arms. Every sound outside made her flinch. Every memory of Alexander's voice tore at her chest. I would burn his memory to ash, if it meant keeping you. Don't let him win again. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to erase Victoria's venom, to erase the documents scattered on her floor. But trust, once cracked, was fragile. And right now, she felt like everything beneath her feet was breaking. The following afternoon, the building felt colder than usual. Emily bundled Sophia in a blanket and decided to take her for a short walk. She thought the air might clear her head, even for a little while. But when she stepped outside, the black car was waiting. Her stomach dropped. She froze on the cracked sidewalk, clutching Sophia tighter. The door opened, and Victoria stepped out, her heels clicking sharply against the concrete. She wore a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Emily's throat tightened. Leave us alone. Victoria tilted her head. I could, but then you'd just run back to him eventually, and I can't allow that. Emily's pulse raced. Why do you care? Why does this matter to you? For the first time, Victoria's mask cracked. Her eyes darkened, her voice trembling with a mixture of rage and grief. Because I was you once, she hissed. I thought Alexander's promises meant something. I thought I could be the exception. But in the end, I was just a mistake he erased. And I won't watch him repeat that cycle with you. Emily's breath caught. So this isn't about me at all. This is about you. Victoria's lips curled into a bitter smile. Oh, it's about both of us. You're naive enough to think love conquers everything. I'm the one who knows better. Emily's heart pounded. She turned toward the door, but Victoria stepped closer. Be careful, Emily. You think Alexander is your savior. He's a man drowning in guilt, and he'll pull you under with him. With that, she slipped back into the car, the door slamming shut. The vehicle pulled away, leaving Emily shaken on the sidewalk, Sophia whimpering in her arms. That night, Emily sat surrounded by the scattered documents Victoria had left. She stared at Daniel's signature, at the company name that tied him to Alexander. And then she stared at Sophia, at the tiny chest rising and falling with each breath, at the innocence in her sleeping face. Emily whispered into the silence, "What if she's right? What if he doesn't see us? Only him. Her tears fell silently. But another voice whispered back in her memory. Alexander's voice. Because I would give up everything I own, everything I've built, just to keep you and Sophia safe. She pressed her hand to her chest, torn in two. 2 days later, Alexander came again. This time, he didn't knock. He stood in the hallway, waiting until Emily opened the door herself. He looked thinner, his face lined with exhaustion. "Emily," he said softly, "please, just 5 minutes. That's all I ask." She hesitated, but something in his voice, raw pleading, pulled her back. She stepped aside, letting him in. He didn't move far. He stood in the center of her tiny apartment, his eyes scanning the peeling wallpaper, the cold floor, the crib made of blankets. His throat tightened. "You and Sophia don't belong here. You deserve more than this." Emily's arms folded tightly across her chest. "We deserve the truth." He met her gaze, his eyes brimming. "Then here it is. Yes, I knew Daniel. Yes, I hated him for what he did to you. But none of that changes how I feel about you. None of that changes that I wake up every morning thinking of you. That I see Sophia and know I'd die before I let anyone hurt her. You're not his shadow, Emily. You're my light. The only light I've had in years." Her chest ached. "Then why does it hurt so much?" "Because love isn't easy," he whispered, stepping closer. "Because trust takes time, and because there are people who would rather see us destroyed than see us happy." At that, Emily's heart clenched. "Victoria." Alexander's jaw tightened. "What did she tell you?" Emily hesitated, then admitted. "She showed me papers, contracts, proof of Daniel's debts to you. She said I was nothing more than your redemption." Alexander closed his eyes, pain flashing across his face. "She's lying to you, because she wants me broken. But Emily, I swear to you, Daniel is the reason I found you, not the reason I love you." His hand trembled as he reached out, hovering near hers. "Don't let her win. Don't let her take us away from each other." For a moment, Emily wanted to give in. She wanted to close the distance, to let his warmth dissolve every doubt. But before she could move, the sound of glass shattering cut through the air. They both froze. Emily turned toward the window. One of the panes had cracked inward, a small rock lying on the floor. Attached to it was a note. Alexander rushed to it, ripping the paper free. His eyes scanned it, his face darkening with fury. Emily's voice shook. "What does it say?" He crumpled it in his fist. "It says you'll never have her." Emily's heart dropped. "Victoria." Alexander's eyes blazed. "She's gone too far." He turned to Emily, his voice fierce. "I won't let her near you again. I don't care what it takes. I'll protect you. Both of you." But Emily's fear swallowed his words. She clutched Sophia tightly, her body trembling, because in that moment, she realized this wasn't just about love anymore. It wasn't about Daniel, or debts, or redemption. It was about survival. That night, Emily sat awake long after Alexander left, her eyes darting to the window every time the wind rattled it. She whispered to Sophia, her voice breaking, "What if loving him means losing everything? What if staying safe means staying alone?" Her daughter slept soundly, unaware of the storm raging around them. But Emily knew the storm was only growing stronger, and in the shadows Victoria was waiting. The morning after the shattered window, Emily felt like the walls of her apartment had grown teeth. Every creak of the old floorboards, every groan of the wind through the gaps in the frame made her jump. She hadn't slept. She couldn't. Sophia stirred against her chest, fussing until Emily hummed softly. But even her lullabies came out jagged, trembling with fear she couldn't disguise. She wanted to call Alexander. She wanted to run into his arms and let him fight the battles she wasn't strong enough to face. But another voice, Victoria's, hissed in her memory. "He'll pull you under with him." So Emily stayed quiet. She chose silence. She chose the trembling walls and her daughter's tiny breaths over the storm outside. But storms don't wait. By noon, the knock came. Emily froze, her whole body stiff. It wasn't Alexander's gentle tap this time. It was sharp, hard, demanding. She gathered Sophia in her arms and tiptoed to the door, pressing her ear against the wood. A man's voice, low and firm. "Miss Clark, we're here on behalf of Knight Enterprises. Mr. Knight sent us." Her breath caught. She should have felt relief. If Alexander had sent men, maybe she was safe. Maybe he was making good on his promise to protect her. But something in the tone twisted her stomach. She called through the door, her voice unsteady. I didn't ask for anyone. Please go." Silence. Then the man replied, almost amused. "Oh, Miss Clark, you don't get to decide that anymore." A chill ran down her spine, and then came the sound of heavy boots shifting, the thud of a shoulder pressing against the door. Emily panicked. She backed away, clutching Sophia. "No, leave us alone." The door shuddered under the force of another blow. She grabbed her phone, her hands trembling, and dialed Alexander. He answered on the first ring. "Emily," her voice broke. "They're here, men. They said they're from Knight Enterprises." His voice sharpened, steel and fury in equal measure. "Emily, listen to me. Lock the back door, hide somewhere safe. I'm coming." The door slammed again, splintering the frame. Emily's sob caught in her throat. "Hurry, please." She grabbed Sophia's blanket and bolted toward the tiny bathroom, slamming the door shut. Just as the front door burst open, boots pounded against the floor. Emily pressed herself into the corner, rocking Sophia, whispering, "Shh, baby, shh, Mommy's here. Mommy won't let them take you." The bathroom doorknob rattled. A man's voice called, mockingly sweet. "Come on, Miss Clark. Don't make this harder than it has to be. We don't want to hurt the baby." Her blood turned to ice, and then suddenly, shouts, a crash, another voice, deeper, furious. "Get away from her." Emily's heart leapt. Alexander. The sounds of struggle shook the apartment. The crash of furniture, fists meeting flesh, grunts of pain. Sophia whimpered, pressing her face into Emily's chest, as if sensing the chaos beyond the door. And then silence. Her breath caught as the bathroom door opened slowly. Alexander stood there, chest heaving, blood trickling from his lip, his eyes burning with rage and relief. "It's all right," he whispered, his voice rough. "I'm here. You're safe." Emily collapsed into his arms, sobbing, clutching Sophia between them. Later, after the men had been dragged away by Alexander's personal security team, Emily sat on the couch, trembling. Alexander knelt in front of her, his hand resting gently on her knee. His voice was low, controlled, but beneath it lay a fire she'd never seen before. "They weren't mine," he said firmly. "They weren't from my company. They used my name, but they weren't mine. That was her. That was Victoria." Emily's eyes widened. She sent them. Alexander's jaw clenched. "She's escalating. She won't stop until she's destroyed everything I care about." He looked at Sophia, then back at Emily. His voice cracked. "That means you." Tears blurred her vision. "Why? Why does she hate me so much?" He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face with trembling fingers. "Because she hates me, and because in her eyes loving me makes you her enemy." Emily shook her head, overwhelmed. "I can't live like this. Sophia can't live like this. You won't have to," Alexander said fiercely. I'll end it tonight if I have to." She caught his wrist, her eyes wide with fear. "What does that mean?" He hesitated, then whispered, "It means I'm done hiding from her. She's not just a jealous ex, Emily. She's dangerous. She knows my world, my business, my weaknesses, and now she knows you." Emily's hand trembled as she gripped his. "Please don't do anything reckless. Don't make me lose you too. For a moment, the fire in his eyes softened. He leaned his forehead against hers, his voice breaking. You won't. I swear it. But I can't let her hurt you. Not again. Sophia stirred between them, letting out a small cry. Both of them froze, then laughed softly through their tears, pressing their foreheads closer together. For the first time in days, Emily felt something spark inside her chest, something like hope. But hope can be fragile. That night, as Alexander made arrangements for security outside her building, Emily sat awake with Sophia. She replayed his words again and again. She's dangerous. She knows my world, my weaknesses. Emily whispered to her sleeping daughter. What if his weakness is us? What if being with him means painting a target on your back? She kissed Sophia's forehead, her tears soaking into her daughter's hair. And across the city, in a room lit only by the glow of a single lamp, Victoria sat at a desk, staring at a photograph. The photo was of Emily, holding Sophia, Alexander standing behind them with his hand on Emily's shoulder. Victoria's nails dug into the paper, tearing it slightly. You think he'll choose you, she whispered. You think you'll survive what I couldn't. Let's see how much love can endure when the world is burning around you. She reached for her phone, her smile cold and sharp. It's time to end this. The next morning, Alexander insisted on driving Emily and Sophia to his estate. She resisted at first, clinging to the familiar walls of her rundown apartment. But after the attack, she knew she couldn't protect her daughter alone. Still, as the black SUV rolled up the long driveway to Alexander's mansion, Emily's chest tightened. The sprawling home looked more like a fortress than a refuge, its tall iron gates and security detail making her feel less like a guest and more like a prisoner. Alexander noticed the tension in her shoulders. He reached over, brushing his thumb against the back of her hand. You're safe here, he said softly. I promise. Emily managed a nod, though her heart wasn't convinced. Inside, Sophia brightened immediately. The wide halls and polished floors became her playground, her little hands reaching out at the glitter of chandeliers. Emily couldn't help but smile, even as unease gnawed at her. Alexander watched them with quiet longing. For a moment, the billionaire who built empires and crushed rivals seemed like nothing more than a man aching for the family he'd never had. Later, when Sophia napped in one of the guest rooms, Alexander led Emily to his study. The room was lined with bookshelves, the fire casting shadows against oak-paneled walls. He poured her tea, but she didn't drink. Tell me everything, she said, her voice firmer than she felt. No more secrets. Alexander sat across from her, the weight of exhaustion heavy in his eyes. Victoria wasn't just someone I dated, he admitted. She was more involved, in my business, in my world. When things ended, I cut her out completely. She didn't take it well. She still hasn't. Emily frowned. She said she was you once. What did she mean? His jaw tightened. She thought she'd be the one at my side, but I saw her for what she was, a master manipulator. I couldn't trust her. Ending things cost me. She knows where to cut deepest. And now, she's using you. Emily hugged herself, her stomach twisting. So this will never end, will it? She'll keep coming after us until she wins. Alexander leaned forward, his hand reaching for hers. She won't win. Not if I stand between her and you. Her voice cracked. But what if standing with you put Sophia in the line of fire? His eyes softened, pain flickering across his face. Then I'll be her shield. I'll take every hit if it means she grows up safe. Tears blurred Emily's vision. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to let his strength carry her. But fear had a louder voice. That evening, Emily wandered the halls while Alexander worked. She stopped at a wall of portraits, paintings of stern men and women with sharp eyes, the Knight lineage. They looked powerful, untouchable, as if daring the world to challenge them. And for the first time, Emily wondered if she truly belonged here. She was a single mother from a cracked apartment with bills she couldn't pay. Sophia's toys had been hand-me-downs, her formula bought with coins scrounged from the couch. Now she stood in a mansion, where even the rugs cost more than her entire life savings. Was this safety, or just another gilded cage? Behind her, a voice broke the silence. "You don't fit here, do you?" Emily spun, her heart lurching. But it wasn't Victoria, it was Margaret, the housekeeper, a woman in her 60s with silver hair pinned neatly back, her sharp eyes softened by kindness. Emily exhaled in relief. I don't know where I fit anymore." Margaret smiled faintly. "You don't have to decide that in a day. I've seen Mr. Knight with many people, but with you," she shook her head, her smile warming. "He looks different, softer, as if the world isn't heavy on his shoulders for once." Emily swallowed hard, emotion rising in her throat. "And you? Do you think he's telling me the truth?" Margaret's gaze held hers. "I've worked for him 20 years. I know when he's lying, and I know when he's fighting for something. With all he has, he's fighting for you." Emily blinked back tears, whispering, "Then why am I still so afraid?" Margaret touched her arm gently. "Because love is always a risk, but sometimes it's the only thing worth risking for." That night, Emily tucked Sophia into the crib Alexander had arranged. She stood there, watching her daughter's peaceful face, torn between two worlds, the safety Alexander promised, and the storm Victoria carried. Her phone buzzed. Emily's stomach dropped when she saw the message. It was from an unknown number, a single line: "Step outside." Alone, her pulse quickened. Against all reason, she crept down the stairs, barefoot on marble, and slipped out through the side door. The night air bit at her skin, and there she was, Victoria, standing at the edge of the drive, her black coat blending into the shadows. Emily's breath hitched. "What do you want?" Victoria's smile was chilling. "To offer you freedom." Emily shook her head, whispering, "Freedom from what?" "From him," Victoria said smoothly. "From the cage he's building around you. Do you really think you and your daughter belong in that house? Do you think you'll ever be more than a wound he's trying to heal?" Emily's fists clenched. "You're wrong." Victoria's eyes glinted. "Am I? Look at you, hiding behind his walls, terrified of me. You're not his equal, Emily. You're his weakness. And when his enemies see that, they'll come for you." "For Sophia." Emily's chest tightened. "Why are you doing this? Why me?" Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping. "Because I refuse to let him build a life he denied me. Because I refuse to let you be what I couldn't." Emily's voice broke. "You're destroying us." "No, Emily." Victoria's smile widened, cold and sharp. "He is. I'm just showing you the truth." From behind them, Alexander's voice thundered. "Enough." Emily spun to see him striding down the drive, fury blazing in his eyes. Victoria's smile faltered, but only for a second. She straightened, tilting her head. "You always were predictable, Alexander." He stopped between them, his arm outstretched protectively in front of Emily. "If you ever come near her again." Victoria cut him off, her tone dripping with venom. "Or what? You'll throw more money at the problem? You'll build higher walls? You can't keep her safe from what you are, Alexander. You'll ruin her, just like you ruined me." Emily's breath caught, but Alexander didn't flinch. His voice came low and steady. "No, I won't ruin her. I'll save her from you, from everything you represent." For a long moment, the air between them crackled, and then Victoria's smile slipped into something darker. "We'll see." She stepped back into the shadows, disappearing into the night. Emily clung to Alexander, her whole body trembling, and for the first time, she wasn't sure if the danger was outside their walls or within them. The confrontation with Victoria left the house shaken. Alexander doubled security. Guards patrolled the perimeter. Surveillance cameras blinked at every corner. Yet inside the mansion, Emily still felt exposed, as though Victoria's shadow slipped through cracks no wall could seal. That night, after Sophia finally drifted to sleep, Alexander found Emily sitting in the nursery chair, her hands wrapped tightly around herself. "You're trembling," he said softly. "I can't stop," she whispered. "Every time I close my eyes, I see her, I hear her voice. I feel like I'm dragging Sophia into a nightmare she'll never wake from." Alexander knelt in front of her, his eyes raw with worry. "You're not dragging her into anything." "I am. I should have told you everything from the start. I should have kept Victoria way before she ever found you." Emily's tears slid silently down her cheeks. "What if she's right, Alexander? What if I don't belong here? What if I'm not strong enough to live in your world?" His hands cupped hers, steadying them. "Emily, you belong wherever you choose to stand. And if you choose to stand with me, then we face everything together. You're stronger than you realize. I see it every time you fight for Sophia. Every time you keep going when life tries to break you." Her breath hitched, her heart pulling toward him, but fear still clawed at her ribs. She whispered, "And if I can't?" His voice cracked, fierce and pleading. "Then I'll carry you until you can." The following morning, Alexander left early for a board meeting. Emily stayed behind with Sophia and Margaret, who tried to soothe her nerves with tea and quiet conversation. But just before noon, a delivery arrived. The guard checked the package, a plain white box addressed to Emily Clark. Emily frowned. She hadn't ordered anything. Margaret opened it carefully. Inside was a single object, a baby's rattle, and a note tied to it in crimson ribbon. "Even angels cry." Emily's blood went cold. Margaret snatched the box away, her face pale. "Don't touch it. I'll call Mr. Knight." But Emily was already trembling. She knew. Victoria had been inside this house before, and she was proving she could be again. When Alexander returned, Emily shoved the rattle into his hands. Her voice broke as she cried. "She won't stop, Alexander. She's taunting us. Taunting me. She's not afraid of your guards, your cameras, your walls. She's already inside. She'll never let us live." Alexander's face darkened with rage, his hands trembling around the tiny toy. "She crossed a line," he said through gritted teeth. "This isn't jealousy anymore. This is war." Emily's tears fell harder. And what happens in a war? People get hurt. People die. What if she wins, Alexander? What if I lose you? What if Sophia loses both of us? He pulled her into his arms, holding her as though his strength alone could shield her. His voice broke against her hair. "You won't lose me. I swear it. I'd burn the world to ash before I let her take you." That night, unable to sleep, Emily wandered the halls again. She found herself in Alexander's study, staring at the fire. Her eyes drifted to the desk, neatly stacked papers, folders marked confidential. Her hand trembled as she reached for one. She didn't mean to pry. She just needed answers. Something, anything, that could anchor her spinning mind. She flipped open a folder, and there it was again. Daniel Parker. Her breath caught. Documents detailing the loans, transactions, letters, and at the bottom, a single handwritten note in Alexander's script. "I owe her more than he ever gave." Tears blurred Emily's vision. She clutched the paper to her chest, whispering, "What do I do?" The answer came too soon, because as she sat there, lost in fear, the study window cracked open. A voice slid through the darkness, "Still looking for the truth, are we?" Emily's head snapped up. Victoria stood half in shadow, one hand resting lightly on the frame, as though she belonged there. Emily's heart pounded. How did you get in?" Victoria smirked. "Locks are just illusions, my dear. Like promises. Like love." Emily backed away, clutching the paper. "Stay away from me." But Victoria stepped closer, her eyes glinting with cruel delight. "You want freedom, don't you? You want safety. All you have to do is walk away from him. Walk away, and I'll disappear from your life forever." Emily's voice shook. And if I don't, Victoria's smile sharpened, then you'll bury him, just like I did. Emily. Alexander's voice thundered from the hall. Victoria's eyes flickered. Then she slipped back through the window like smoke, leaving only her words behind. Emily turned as Alexander burst in, his eyes wide with panic. What happened? Her whole body shook. She held up the paper in her trembling hand. She was here. She was right here. And she told me I'd bury you. Alexander's face hardened, fury blazing in his eyes. He crossed the room, pulling Emily against him, his voice fierce. Not if I bury her first. Later, after Sophia was safe in her crib, Emily and Alexander stood in the kitchen, silence heavy between them. Finally, Emily whispered, I can't live like this. I can't keep wondering if every shadow hides her face. Alexander cupped her cheek, his eyes glistening. Then let me end it. Tonight. Let me finish this so we can finally breathe. Emily's tears fell. What if you don't come back? His voice broke. Then know that I loved you with everything I had. Her heart twisted, torn between clinging to him and begging him not to go. She whispered, Alexander, what if love isn't enough to save us? He pulled her closer, pressing his forehead to hers. His voice trembled. Then love will have to be enough to fight with. The storm outside mirrored the one brewing inside Emily's chest. Rain battered the windows of the night estate, wind howling as though warning her that something was coming. Alexander paced the study, phone pressed to his ear, issuing orders to his head of security. His tone was sharp, commanding, every inch the billionaire who'd built an empire on steel and fire. But when his eyes flicked to Emily, she saw the cracks, the weariness, the fear he tried so hard to hide. Lock down every exit, he barked into the phone. If Victoria tries to breach the property again, I want her stopped before she takes a single step. He ended the call, tossing the phone onto the desk with more force than necessary. Emily swallowed hard. What are you going to do? His jaw tightened. I'm going to finish this. Tonight. Her chest clenched. Alexander, you can't. I can. His voice was low but burning. She's not just taunting us anymore. She's threatening you. Threatening Sophia. That makes this personal. Emily shook her head, tears rising. And what if she's right? What if loving us makes you weak? His eyes softened. He crossed the room and took her trembling hands in his. Loving you doesn't make me weak, Emily. It makes me human. It makes me willing to fight harder than I ever have. Don't let her twist that into something it isn't. Her tears spilled over, her voice breaking. But what if I lose you? Alexander pulled her into his arms, his embrace fierce and unyielding. His whisper was hoarse against her ear. You won't. Not tonight. Not ever. Hours later, the house lay in uneasy silence. Guards patrolled outside. Margaret kept Sophia close in the nursery. Emily sat alone in the darkened living room, hands clenched around the rattle. Victoria had left as though it might offer answers. Every creak of the house made her heart lurch, and then the lights flickered. Her breath caught. A voice floated from the shadows, smooth and chilling. You really thought walls could keep me out? Emily's head whipped around. Victoria stood in the doorway, rain dripping from her black coat, eyes glinting with triumph. Emily's pulse pounded. How did you? Victoria smirked. I know this house better than Alexander thinks. He forgets who once held the keys. Before Emily could respond, Alexander burst in, fury radiating off him. Two guards trailed behind, but he motioned them back. Leave us, he ordered, his voice low and lethal. The guards hesitated, then retreated, leaving the three of them in a standoff. Victoria's smile widened. Always the hero, Alexander, but heroes fall hardest. Alexander stepped forward, his fists clenched. This ends tonight. The air crackled with tension. Victoria's gaze shifted to Emily, her voice dripping with venom. Tell me, Emily, do you really believe him? Do you really think you'll be different? I thought I was too. I thought I was the one who could change him, heal him. but in the end I was nothing more than collateral damage. And so will you. Emily's voice shook, but she forced the words out. Maybe you weren't his light. Maybe you were just his shadow. Victoria's smile faltered for the first time, her eyes flashing. Alexander's voice cut through the silence. You don't get to rewrite our lives just because yours fell apart. Victoria's laughter rang hollow. Rewrite? No, Alexander. I'm showing her the truth. You're a man consumed by guilt. You'll destroy her the way you destroy everything you touch. Emily's heart pounded. For a moment doubt flickered again, but then she saw Alexander's face, raw, pleading, filled not with guilt but with love. He turned to her, his voice breaking. Emily, don't listen to her. She feeds on fear. Don't let her steal what we've built. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Choose, Emily, him or freedom, because you can't have both. The room spun. Emily's chest tightened, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She saw Sophia's sleeping face in her mind, innocent and fragile. She saw the paper trail of Daniel's debts. She heard Victoria's venom, Alexander's pleas, and then she remembered something Margaret had said. Sometimes love is the only thing worth risking for. Her tears fell freely. She looked at Alexander, then back at Victoria, and with trembling hands she stepped forward, toward him. I choose him, she whispered, her voice breaking but steady. Not because he's perfect, not because I'm fearless, but because love isn't about safety. It's about standing together when the world tries to tear you apart. Alexander's eyes filled with tears. He reached for her hand, gripping it tightly. Victoria's face twisted with rage. Foolish girl. She lunged forward, but Alexander stepped between them, his voice a thunderclap. You don't touch her. For a moment the storm inside the mansion mirrored the one outside. Lightning flashing, thunder cracking, shadows colliding. And then Victoria froze, her shoulders shaking with something halfway between a sob and a laugh. You'll regret this, she hissed. She turned sharply, disappearing back into the storm, her footsteps echoing into the night. Silence fell. Emily collapsed against Alexander, her body trembling violently. He held her close, his arms wrapping around both her and the child she clutched against her chest. His voice was low, fierce, unyielding. You made the right choice. I swear to you, Emily. I won't let her take this from us. I won't let her take you. Emily buried her face in his chest, sobbing. I don't care if I regret it. I just want to love you, even if it destroys me. Alexander pressed his lips to her hair, whispering, it won't destroy you. It will save us both. And as the storm raged outside, Emily finally allowed herself to believe him. The storm eased overnight, but the silence it left behind was heavier than thunder. Emily woke in Alexander's arms, her body still trembling from the night before. She glanced at Sophia, curled safely in her crib, and a fragile relief washed through her. But it didn't last, because deep down she knew Victoria wasn't gone. Not yet. By mid-morning, the mansion felt like a fortress. Guards doubled their posts. Surveillance streamed across glowing monitors in the security room. Yet beneath the order lay a brittle tension, as if the whole house held its breath. Emily stood at the window, watching the driveway where rainwater still glistened. Her reflection looked back at her, pale, tired, haunted. Alexander came up behind her, resting his hands gently on her shoulders. You were brave last night, he murmured. Her throat tightened. I was terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear, he said softly. It's choosing to stand anyway. And you did. Tears filled her eyes. She turned, pressing her forehead to his chest. I just want it to end. I want to wake up one morning and not feel like we're fighting for our lives. His arms closed around her, steady and sure. We will. I promise. That afternoon, Margaret suggested Emily take Sophia to the garden for fresh air. The storm had passed, leaving the air crisp and bright. For the first time in days, Emily let her daughter giggle in the sunshine, the sound like a balm against her aching heart. She watched Sophia toddle on the grass, clutching a stuffed bear, and whispered a prayer she hadn't dared in years. Please, let her grow up free of this fear. But prayers can't hold shadows at bay, because just as she bent to scoop Sophia into her arms, a familiar voice slithered across the breeze. Still playing house, are we? Emily froze. Her blood turned to ice. She spun around, and there she was, Victoria, standing at the edge of the garden, clad in black, her eyes glittering like broken glass. The guards at the gate shouted, but she only raised her hands mockingly, as if to say, too late. I'm already here. Emily clutched Sophia tightly, her heart hammering. Stay back, she cried, her voice breaking. Victoria tilted her head, her smile cruel. You think he can protect you forever? Men like Alexander burn everything they touch. You'll be ashes soon enough. Emily's breath came ragged, fear twisting into defiance. You're wrong. He saved us. He loves us. You were wrong. He saved us. He loves us. Victoria's laughter cut through the air. Love? That's what he told me too, right before he destroyed me. The guards rushed forward, but before they could reach her, Victoria hurled something small and metallic onto the ground. Smoke erupted in a thick white cloud, choking the air. Emily coughed, clutching Sophia to her chest, stumbling backward as chaos exploded around her. Voices shouted, boots pounded on stone, and then hands grabbed her. Emily, Alexander's voice roared through the smoke. She gasped as he pulled her close, shielding her and Sophia with his body. When the smoke cleared, Victoria was gone. Only a single ribbon remained on the grass, scarlet, like blood. That night the mansion held its breath again, every window locked, every guard on edge. Emily sat on the bed, rocking Sophia gently, her nerves frayed to threads. She'll never stop, she whispered to Margaret, who sat nearby. She'll keep coming until she tears us apart. Margaret's eyes softened with a mixture of sorrow and steel. Then you must decide if fear will rule you, or if love will. Emily's gaze drifted to Alexander, who stood in the doorway, watching them. His eyes burned with quiet determination. Victoria's made her choice, he said. Now it's ours. Later, when Sophia was finally asleep, Alexander and Emily sat in the dimly lit study. Neither spoke for a long time. The silence waited with all the things left unsaid. At last, Alexander reached across the desk, taking her trembling hand. I can't promise you a life without pain. I can't promise she'll disappear overnight. But I can promise you this, you'll never face her alone. Not while I'm breathing. Emily's tears spilled over, her voice breaking. And if she takes that breath from you, his grip tightened, then I'll still be with you. In Sophia's smile, in the love we built, she can't erase that, Emily. Not even death can. Her heart cracked open, the fear inside it colliding with a desperate hope. She leaned across the desk, pressing her forehead to his. Then we fight, together. His lips brushed hers, soft but fierce, sealing the vow between them. But the night wasn't finished with them. Just before dawn, a guard burst into the room, his voice frantic. Sir, the outer cameras caught movement. It's her, she's back. Emily's blood turned cold. Alexander stood, his expression hard as steel. Then this ends now. He turned to Emily, his voice fierce but tender. Stay with Sophia. Don't leave this room. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Alexander, but he silenced her with a kiss, urgent and raw. When he pulled back, his voice was a vow. I love you. And then he was gone, striding into the storm of dawn to face the shadow that had haunted them both. The first light of dawn painted the mansion in muted gold, but inside, fear thickened the air. Emily stood at the nursery window, Sophia warm and small against her shoulder. Her heartbeat thundered, each second stretching like eternity. She kept replaying Alexander's last words. I love you. It sounded too much like goodbye. Downstairs, Alexander moved like a man carved from stone. His guards flanked him, armed and alert, but he motioned for them to keep back. This wasn't just a threat to be neutralized. This was personal. The security footage showed her clearly. Victoria, slipping through the trees at the edge of the property, her black coat blending with the shadows of dawn. Alexander strode outside, the chill morning air biting his skin. He didn't flinch. Victoria, his voice boomed across the lawn, sharp as steel. No more games. Come out. For a moment, silence answered. Then she stepped forward, her smile cruel, her eyes glittering. Finally, she purred. I was starting to think you'd lost your edge. Alexander's jaw clenched. You should have left when you had the chance. And miss this. Her laugh rang hollow. No, Alexander. You owe me this. You owe me everything. From the upstairs window, Emily watched, her breath catching in her throat. She wanted to run to him, to stand by his side, but Margaret's hand gripped her arm. Stay with your daughter, Margaret whispered firmly. This is his fight. Tears blurred Emily's vision as she pressed Sophia tighter to her chest. Please, God, don't let him fall. On the lawn, Victoria's mask slipped, her smile twisted into rage, her voice sharp as glass. You ruined me, Alexander. You promised me forever, and then you left me in the ashes. Do you have any idea what that does to a woman? Alexander's eyes blazed. I didn't ruin you. You chose power over love. You turned your heart into a weapon. That's why I walked away. Her laugh cracked, jagged and raw. And now you think you found redemption in her. A broken single mother with nothing to her name. Do you think she'll save you from your guilt? Alexander's voice thundered back. She already has. Emily showed me what love truly is. What sacrifice means. Something you never understood. Victoria's face contorted, fury overtaking her features. Then she'll pay for it. She lunged forward, a glint of metal flashing in her hand. A knife. Emily screamed from the window. Alexander. He turned just in time. The blade grazed his arm as he caught her wrist, twisting it with brutal precision. The knife clattered to the ground. They grappled, rage and desperation colliding in the dawn light. Guards rushed forward, but Alexander held up his hand, his voice fierce. No, this ends with me. The struggle dragged on, raw and ugly. Victoria fought like a cornered animal, her screams echoing across the grounds. You'll never be free of me, she shrieked. Even if I die, I'll haunt every breath she takes. Alexander's grip tightened, his voice breaking with fury and grief. Not anymore. With a final wrench, he disarmed her fully, pinning her to the ground. The guards closed in, securing her arms, but Alexander didn't look away. His chest heaved, his eyes wet, his voice hoarse. I loved you once, Victoria. I mourned you when you left, but the woman I knew is gone. What's left is nothing but hatred, and I won't let it poison my family. Victoria spat up at him, her body shaking. You'll regret this. She'll regret this. But her voice had lost its edge. The fight drained out of her as the guards dragged her away, her curses fading into the morning air. Emily rushed down the stairs, her heart in her throat. Sophia clutched tightly against her. When she reached the lawn, she saw him, Alexander, blood staining his sleeve, exhaustion etched into his face. Her legs buckled with relief. Alexander. He turned at the sound of her voice. For a moment, the world fell away. He crossed the distance in 3 strides, wrapping her and Sophia into his arms. His body shook as he buried his face in her hair. It's over, he whispered, his voice ragged. She can't hurt us anymore. Emily sobbed against him, clutching him as though she'd never let go. I thought I lost you. I thought. You'll never lose me, he interrupted, pulling back just enough to meet her eyes. His own were shining, vulnerable, utterly bare. I'd walk through fire before I let that happen. Sophia stirred between them, her tiny hand pressing against Alexander's chest. He looked down at her, then back at Emily, his expression softening into something unshakable. "This is our family," he said, voice steady, "and no one will ever tear it apart." The mansion was quiet again, not the tense, suffocating quiet of fear, but the fragile quiet that comes after a storm has finally broken. Victoria was gone, escorted away under heavy guard, her venomous voice fading into silence. But her shadow lingered, and Emily knew healing wouldn't come in an instant. Still, for the first time in months, hope felt possible. Alexander sat on the edge of the bed, his arm bandaged, exhaustion pulling at his shoulders. Emily moved softly through the room, laying Sophia gently into her crib. The child sighed in her sleep, blissfully unaware of the war that had raged around her. Emily turned back to him, her heart aching at the sight of his bruised face, the blood-stained fabric of his shirt. "You should rest," she whispered. "I can't," he said, voice hoarse. His eyes met hers, raw and searching. "Not until I know you believe me." Her breath caught. "Believe what?" "That I'm not him," Alexander said, his words breaking. "I'm not Daniel. I'm not the man who left you to fight alone. I should have told you about the debts, the truth, but I swear to you, Emily, every choice I've made since the day you texted me was for you and Sophia. Not out of guilt, out of love." Tears filled her eyes, spilling hot down her cheeks. She crossed the room, kneeling in front of him. "Alexander, I know. I was scared, but I know. You've given us more than I ever thought possible. Not money, not safety. Love." He lifted a trembling hand to her face, brushing away her tears. "So you're not leaving me?" Her laugh was choked with sobs. "Leaving you? I couldn't, even if I wanted to. You're in Sophia's smile. You're in the air I breathe. You're in every beat of my heart now." They held each other in silence, letting the weight of everything they had survived settle into something stronger than fear, belonging. When morning light streamed through the curtains, Emily woke to find Alexander still watching her, his expression softer than she had ever seen. "You know," he murmured, "I used to think love was a weakness, a distraction, but with you, it's the only thing that's ever made me feel strong." She smiled through fresh tears. "And I used to think love was something other people got, not women like me. But then you showed up, and you changed everything." That afternoon, Alexander called a press conference. For years he had lived in the shadows of boardrooms and stock markets, his personal life guarded with military precision. But this time, he stood before cameras, Emily's hand in his, Sophia resting on her hip. "My name is Alexander Knight," he began, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "You all know me as a businessman. Today I want you to know me as a man who almost lost everything, because I was too afraid to admit what matters most. This is Emily, and this is our daughter. They are my family, my future, and I will protect them with everything I have." Emily's chest swelled with emotion as flashes burst around them, reporters clamoring. For the first time, she didn't feel like a mistake who had texted the wrong number. She felt like she belonged. Back at the mansion, Margaret prepared a quiet dinner for just the three of them. Candlelight flickered across the table, Sophia babbling happily in her high chair. Emily laughed softly as the baby smeared food across her cheeks. "She's going to need a bath." Alexander leaned back, watching them with a smile so tender it nearly undid her. "Do you realize this is the first time this house has felt like a home?" Emily reached across the table, taking his hand. "That's because it isn't a house anymore. It's ours." Later that night, after Sophia was asleep, Alexander led Emily to the garden where so much had happened. The grass was still damp, the moon casting silver light across the lawn. He stopped beneath the old oak tree, his expression serious. "There's one more thing I need to do," he said softly. Her heart raced. What is it? He took her hands, lowering himself to one knee. Emily gasped, her free hand flying to her mouth. Emily Clark, Alexander said, his voice trembling but sure. The day you texted me by mistake, I thought it was an inconvenience, but it was the greatest miracle of my life. You've given me laughter, purpose, a family, and a love I didn't know I was capable of. I don't ever want to imagine a life without you. Will you marry me? Her tears spilled freely as she nodded, her voice breaking into a sob. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then rose, pulling her into a kiss that was both fierce and tender, sealing the promise of a new life. The garden that had once been a place of fear now became the place where love claimed victory. Weeks later, the mansion was filled with joy, not tension. Wedding plans buzzed in the air, but Emily cared less about the details and more about the man who had chosen her. One evening, she sat on the porch with Alexander, Sophia asleep upstairs. The sunset painted the sky in hues of pink and gold. Alexander took her hand, their fingers lacing easily. "Do you ever wonder," he asked, "what would have happened if you hadn't sent that text?" Emily smiled, leaning against him. "Then I guess I would have missed the greatest mistake of my life." He kissed her forehead, whispering, "Not a mistake, a beginning." And for the first time in forever, Emily believed it. As Emily and Alexander's story closes in love, I want to ask you, do you believe in accidental destinies, that sometimes the wrong number, wrong turn, or wrong moment can lead us exactly where we're meant to be? Tell me in the comments what your wrong moment that changed everything was, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.